G'day mates, Chapter 3 Season 2 just launched, and with it a whole bunch of new mechanics that I want to explain to you guys. How does overshield work? How does the new mantling work? What's going on with no building in Fortnite? Should I be using the new SMG or the Stinger SMG? I've waited to post this video. I wanted to play the game all day to make sure I got all the best details for you guys so I can actually let you know what's going on with the season rather than rushing out a video like I usually do and just kind of giving you a first glance. This is an in-depth look at how Fortnite Chapter 3 Season 2 is looking. So, there's a lot to talk about. Let's just jump into it. Before I talk about all the crazy new stuff that Epic added in Fortnite Chapter 3 Season 2, let's talk about what they took away. Building, the core mechanic of Fortnite. Building is no longer in pubs, but if you're not enjoying it, don't freak out. Don't worry, you still have arena and competitive where building is still in the game, and it's only temporary. Building is only taken out of the game for the next 9 days, I believe 8 days by the time this video goes live. We had iFire Monkey, who was the leaker who figured out the no building before the season even launched, talking about how this is all revolving around week 1 challenges and a storyline theme where we're trying to bring back the building. And once we get through this week 1 challenges, it looks like building should be restored because a bunch of audio files that talk about what's going to happen as we restore building. I won't put them in here because it's a bit of a spoiler, but all you need to know is if you want the building to come back, it looks like it's going to come back in about 8 days, or you can just jump in arena and competitive. With this though, Epic has added a few new features to combat the no building. We have the new overshield mechanic. Now, this is only in pubs. It's not in competitive, but I don't know if it's going to stay in pubs after building comes back. So you now have an extra 50 shield on top of your regular health and shield that automatically regenerates when the game starts, and if you don't take damage for 5 seconds, it regenerates. So in between every single fight, you're basically getting an extra 50 shield. It does make the game a little bit weirder for me because I'm so used to people having 100 health, especially on spawn. So it's an interesting mechanic, and to combat the no building, it makes a lot of sense. I don't know how it's going to fit in the game once building comes back, because it basically means that it's going to promote me having to jump in and instantly kill someone, because if they run away when building comes back, they just have to hold off away from me for, let's say, 5 seconds. They start getting their shield back, they pop a mini or two, and they've gained 100 health just by getting away from me, and that could just keep happening over and over again endlessly. So we'll see how that plays out once building comes back. Like I said, it's not in competitive. They did also add sprinting and mantling. Now, I'm sorry to my controller brothers and sisters, sprinting does take another keybind. Mouse and keyboard not so bad, but for controller, I know keybinds are short, but if you go into your settings, you'll be able to bind a keybind to sprint, and the way it works is like a tactical sprint in like a lot of other games like Call of Duty. You have a sprint bar in the bottom left. As long as that is full, you can tactically sprint. You get an increased movement speed, you get extra FOV, but you can't build or shoot. And so far, it's a kind of cool mechanic. This is exactly what I wanted them to do with it when I talked about tactical sprinting, because they've added to the game. It's got that cool new mechanic, but it's not having the massive issue of people using it to like exploit, because they can't actually break builds or shoot while they're doing it. So it's looking like it's adding an extra element of mobility, which in competitive, when they've taken out all mobility from the game except for launch pads, which I will talk about later in the video, it's looking a bit crazy. Also combined with this is shoulder bash. If you run into a door now, the door kind of like explodes open like Call of Duty, but with auto open doors on, it doesn't really matter that much. As far as mantling, you can actually now jump and climb up onto ledges, like 1 or 2 layers up off the ground. You can go up a level, which without building in the game really helps you get around the map, because you can't build to get up levels or on roofs or anything anymore. So I like this feature of the game as well. ReeseHub actually made a pretty cool little tweet about how you can use this to side jump without building. It does have a bit of a delay on it, so don't expect to do this too much in like an intense 1v1, but end game, when you're out of mats, or if you want to pull off a sneaky play, I think this will be very, very interesting to see how it changes up the game. I think it'll have a really big impact, just like sliding, especially as people get more of a hang of it. I've already seen Martos also uploading some clips of doing crazy cool like phases with like an edited floor and a cone to go for a peak shot, because that's just what Martos does. But overall, I'm pretty happy with these 3 additions to the game. It is a lot, but right now Epic is really balancing and thinking about these things they add to the game. I think the tactical sprint, as long as you can't build or shoot, is completely fine. I'm a little bit scared though about that overshield once building comes back, but again, it's only in pubs, not competitive, so I'm not too worried. Next up, let's talk about the new changes to the loot pool, and there are some massive ones. First off, in competitive, there is no mobility except for launch pads. I mean, no mobility. They even took peppers out of non-boxes, and they took the chili chug splashes out of llamas. There is literally only launch pads for mobility in competitive. Pubs, you now have the shockwave grenades, and that's basically it, just shockwave grenades and launch pads. Very interesting after a meta where we had the Spider-Man, which is one of the strongest mobility items we've ever had, to then go to basically nothing. Yes, launch pads are still phenomenal. I'm still excited launch pads are in the game, but I really would have liked another form of carryable mobility, maybe some bounce pads. They have made up for it with some good permanent mobility around the map, which I'm going to talk about when I talk about the map changes in a little bit. The next major change, though, is going to be to the SMGs. If you did not like last season because the Stinger SMG, I'm sorry to tell you, you're almost definitely going to dislike this season even more because of the combat SMG. It's been added to the game, and it is more powerful than the Stinger SMG. If we take the stats and we compare them, NAE's comp report did a really good tweet about this. The Stinger SMG at the highest rarity did 240 DPS, damage per second. The combat SMG does 288. It does 448 extra DPS. The damage on each bullet is 4 higher at every single rarity. It has a 2-time multiplier for headshot damage, by the way, which the Stinger didn't have, so headshots do even more damage. It has the same fire rate, so shooting just as fast with that increased damage, so where the extra DPS comes from, and the magazine size is actually bigger. It has 32 bullets in the clip compared to Stinger's 30. The only downside is it has a bit more recoil, so if you're using the Stinger SMG more like an AR at that medium range, the combat SMG is going to be a bit harder to control the recoil, but if you're jumping in boxes, the combat SMG is even more broken than the Stinger. It is absolutely disgustingly strong. I'm not a huge fan of the spray meta, like I've said. I'm not going to make this video super negative, but it is a bit unfortunate to see us go down another spray meta 2 seasons in a row. I really was excited for a good shotgun meta this season, but I know a lot of people out there are fans of the spray meta, so I'm interested to see what they think about having 2 really strong SMGs in the game. Let me know in the comments down below if you're enjoying playing around with them. You're probably thinking they probably added a super strong shotgun to combat this, and unfortunately they didn't. We got the drum shotgun brought back to the game, which is the most spray of the shotguns, so we just got a spray shotgun now as well. It has been adjusted so it fires slower, does a bit more increased damage, but has a tighter spread, so it's gonna be interesting to play around with this one, but it just doesn't seem like originally from me using it and watching pros, it doesn't hold up against the SMG. The SMG still out damages it. The striker shotgun didn't get buffed at all. Looks like it's functioning exactly the same. That's basically it. They removed the heavy shotgun as well from the game, so there's no more heavy shotgun. There is a ray of hope though for you pump lovers out there and you shotgun lovers. There is a clip that was shown in the actual game of a new shotgun that looks like a single shot shotgun, like a pump shotgun, not the heavy shotgun. It doesn't shoot a single slug. It shoots a normal like spread of pellets of a shotgun, but only shoots one of them. So I'm hoping this is going to be a super high damage shotgun, kind of like the dragon shotgun or the double barrel. It looks like it might have a bit more range on it too. It looks like it's got a longer barrel, so maybe it's like that, but at range, I don't know. We're gonna have to see how that one plays out. I'm really excited to see how a shotgun, where if you miss your shot, you miss, or you can put out high damage, is gonna go, but it's not in the game as of yet. Other weapons that look like they're coming to the season which aren't in yet, it looks like the heavy sniper and the LMG have both been spotted in the trailer, so they are being worked on. Leaguers have talked about how they're coming to the game, but they're not in right now. The ARs, we've actually gone away from a spray meta in the ARs, even though we've gone really spray meta heavy with the SMG and the shotguns. We now no longer have the MK7. The only 2 assault rifles is the burst assault rifle, which now shoots in 2 bullets, just like they've been for a little while now. They come in an AUG at every rarity, so if you guys remember, you had the FAMAS for green, blue, and gray, then you had the AUG for purple and legendary. Now they're a AUG at every level, and they're red dot. They have a red dot sight on them. These are really strong. It is very, very easy to hit consistent double headshots with these. They are a lot stronger than the Ranger Assault Rifle right now, I must say, but the Ranger Assault Rifle did get a little bit of a buff. It got a buff in terms of first shot accuracy. If you guys don't know, guns with first shot accuracy, like the Rangers, where if you hold your ADS and you don't move, you'll notice that your crosshair completely closes. That first shot has no bloom. It has first shot accuracy. That first shot accuracy now resets faster, which is interesting. It kind of makes the Ranger feel a bit more like an infantry rifle. It is really strong, and I guess if people are going to be demigods with their aim, it could arguably be better than the burst rifle, but I still think the burst rifle comes out on top a little bit. We had the thermal scoped assault rifle added to the game. I've only played around with the mythic one so far. It seems kind of cool, but I've never been a huge fan of the mythic, of the thermal weapons. The thermal, it lets you see through players through builds though, to see where they're about to peak to then hit them with shots, so that could be pretty strong. It does do very, very high damage. It is single fire though. It is semi-auto, not full auto, and it doesn't have any spray ability at hip fire. It's still only single fire at hip fire, so got to be careful if you're going to run that as your AR, because you can't really put out good damage from the hip fire. You have the revolver being added to the game, which is just a pistol. I'm not a huge fan of the pistols unless it's the Deagle, so interesting, but I'm not going to be picking up very often. Remote explosives, but they are only in pubs. There are no C4 in competitive, and it's been increased this amount of damage it does to vehicles. This is kind of like the tank buster. We have the thermal scoped AR. Yeah, you heard that right, tank. I'll talk about that in a little bit. There is a tank in Fortnite and in competitive. competitive. We have a couple of exotics as well, the thermal scoped revolver and the Storm Scout sniper rifle. Also, they mentioned the shockwaves, but again, shockwaves are only in pubs. Everything else that I mentioned is still in the game that I didn't mention being taken out, like the heavy shotgun. So the loadout, the loot pool is actually very, very similar, except for the new AR, the new SMG, and the drum shotgun. Normally, I would now move on to talking about map changes, but I'm going to save that for a little bit because I want to talk about these vehicles, because we now have a tank in Fortnite, in competitive Fortnite as well. It has 2,500 health. It shoots 70 damage rockets that you have an infinite amount of. It has a turret that your teammate can get into. And if you do take damage from players trying to shoot it out, you have a repair tool where you can just hold it down and repair it back up to maximum health. This thing is insane. It also breaks through any structure at any speed. It's kind of like the semi-auto. If you move up to a wood build or a metal build and you're only going so slow, you'll still break straight through it. So end game, that's going to be good fun. In competitive, there is no C4, so there's no reliable way to take down the tank very easily. It's going to have to take a lot of spray. If people are using this early and mid game to rotate around, I don't imagine a lot of players are going to want to waste their very little ammo trying to break a tank when the player can just get out and repair it anyway. So I have a feeling this will be balanced, or at least just removed from competitive altogether. I just don't see how this item is going to fit, or this vehicle is going to fit into competitive properly, but I guess we'll have to see. The other thing which is crazy is the cow catcher. Now, this is crazy because you can throw it on vehicles, and Nat shows here perfectly how broken this is going to be endgame. You throw it on a semi-truck and you just drive through everything at max speed, but that's not the only reason why it's broken. It's actually what you can do with it as an item when carrying it. When you throw it on the ground, it creates like a little bit of a structure to hide behind, which is great for pubs right now if you can't build. But in arena where you can build, it instantly breaks a wall, floor, or cone, and you can then get the freest pump of your life. You can literally walk up to someone in a 1x1, they're turbo building their wall, throw it down, the wall breaks, bam, pump shot. They can't even build the wall because this is now blocking the wall build. It's like a stronger crash pad. So if you're not carrying these and using them, you need to be. I'm sure Martos is going to come out with some even crazier strategy I haven't thought of yet with the cow catchers. They are a bit of fun, but I think especially for endgame and competitive, they're going to have to adjust something with how these works, because you can just run up to anyone's box and just open it up and just go for a big pump or a big phase in. So I don't know how that's going to be balanced properly in competitive. It also makes the ramming capabilities of the cars way stronger, but we have been asking for vehicle modding for a while now, so we'll see. Now, it's not really a vehicle, the siege cannon, though. It is a different kind of vehicle that is around the map, but it's at more of the POIs. It basically functions like the cannons from chapter 1 season 7, was it, or season 8, the pirate season. I absolutely love these. I find them a lot of fun. You can either shoot them like a cannon, or you can load yourself into them and shoot yourself, where you can then get glider redeploy. Really, really good for mobility, really good for getting around the map. With less mobility in the game right now, I love that they're adding more permanent mobility, especially in end games, like you're in third zone and you can maybe make your way up into one of these blimp positions. You can then use this to rotate later. There is a lot of cool potential for them. I do really, really like them. I hope they're not as glitchy as the cannons from the chapter 1. If you guys remember, I think it was the ninja clip where he just sent himself sideways off the map. I don't want to see anything like that happening, but I think these are a great addition to the game. I'm excited to play around with them. They are very, very fun. I like the siege cannons. While these are kind of vehicles, I'm going to put them in with the map department because they are the new IO blimps. They're basically the Zeppelins or the blimps that are around the map. These are the major forms of map changes this season. I know towards the end or middle of chapter 2, I kind of became the map change guy. I was arguing a lot for why Fortnite needed some major map changes, and there's been some pretty minor map changes. A lot of people, I think, were expecting me to complain or be upset, but I'm not really at all. I was only really complaining during chapter 2 because we went years when nothing was changing. We've only been like 3 months on a brand new map now. I still find this map really fresh and really exciting. So adding the Zeppelins around the map and a few different POIs. I think there's a new one over near Chonka Speedway. There's like a new desert area there. So for the most part, it makes the map feel new enough. I really did want Epic putting their time into new weapons, new vehicles, or just new content in the game outside of the map. So I'm completely happy with the minimal map changes. They have added even more loot to the already major POIs. Like Covert now is just completely busted. It already was. You now have all the loot it already had with the coolers, with the vault, all that craziness. And now you have a giant blimp on top that has a whole bunch of IO chests, regular chests. It now has more rotation capabilities. You have an IO siege cannon to shoot yourself across the map. Like, it really is making some of the POIs that were already broken even more broken. But when it comes to competitive, I'm quite excited to see how this plays out because these are entire POIs in themselves. So like, let's say you're dropping Coney. There's gonna a team that's gonna drop like Coney spaceship and maybe, or a blimp and a little bit of the loot around it. The other team's gonna drop the other side. One team's gonna have high ground. There's gonna be cannons. Like, it is gonna be interesting to see how these fights play out. out. So I do like these being added to the game so far. They do have really weird build grids inside them, but I'm just getting used to having weird build grids in chapter 3 where I just can't build walls in certain locations. One pro tip I will give you is a lot of these IO bases, especially the one at Covert, actually now have scanners. If you guys remember where those drill sites were around the map, you could scan and it kind of lets you know where the chests and the players are in a vicinity around that scan. You can now do that for the entirety of Covert. You can see where every single player in Covert is. It basically gives you wall hacks. So if you're dropping any of these locations, look for the scanners because the information is key. So overall, I like the map. Not too much change, but what did change, I'm a fan of. The major change as far as competitive goes that not too many people are talking about is we have had our first change to Storm Surge pretty much since Storm Surge was invented. Storm Surge intervals now have been increased from 5 seconds to 10 seconds. What that means is once Storm Surge starts ticking, instead of being hit every 5 seconds for 25 damage, it's going to be every 10. And I'm interested to see how this plays out. I'm not going to instantly say it's a bad thing. I don't know why Epic is trying to make it easier to fight when you're getting hit by Surge, because as most people know, a lot of pros would say the same thing. If you're below Surge, it's your fault. Like, you messed up, you didn't get your tags, you didn't position properly. So to give yourself a better advantage to now fight the team next to you who managed their Surge, and now you're not taking as much damage, so you actually have an equal playing field, seems a bit unfair in my opinion. I feel like if you're going to force pros to get keyed by other pros who are below Storm Surge, at least give the team that's being keyed the advantage of not being hit for 25 damage every 5 seconds. Now it's every 10 seconds. That's a fair bit of time to be able to heal that damage up and jump in on full health. It will be interesting to see how it affects the game. Again, I don't want to instantly say it's a bad thing, but just me thinking it through, I don't think Storm Surge needed to be changed. I think it does punish teams the way it should at the moment. If you are very passive, if you're not getting your damage, if you're not being active on the map, you are now being punished by Storm Surge. And I think that's a good thing to promote teams to be more active and take engagements. And then if you don't get your Storm Surge and you go for a fight, you're taking that fight at a severe disadvantage. So if you win it, it's worth it and you deserve to be able to get out of Storm Surge and get that loot. Now it'll feel a little bit less rewarding in my opinion, but we'll see. Maybe making Storm Surge a little bit easier will create a more interesting early and mid-game dynamic. I don't really know. Storm Surge is a very, very interesting subject that it has a huge impact on the game without fully always realizing it. I'm sure you guys probably already saw this. It was all over social media, but I want to just give a huge shout out and thank you to Epic Games and tip my hat to them that they are supporting the humanitarian relief for Ukraine. Epic is committing all its Fortnite proceeds from March 20th, 2022, which is right now, through to April 3rd, 2022 to the humanitarian relief for people affected by the war in Ukraine. Not only that, they tweeted out, we're excited to share that Xbox is joining us in this effort and is committing their net proceeds for Fortnite during this time so we can get more aid to the people of Ukraine. Not only that, they've also said if you guys use people's creator codes and you buy the battle pass or any cosmetics, the 5% that would then come out of that is still also going to go to the Ukraine relief, and Epic is going to be paying out the creators themselves personally. So just a really touching movement by Fortnite, and I love to see this. I would love to see Fortnite get behind stuff like this more in the future, just other, you know, humanitarian reliefs around the world. I loved it when I used to play League of Legends. They'd bring out skins, and if you bought that skin, 100% of the proceeds went towards, you know, whether there was like a tsunami in a country that needed help. It was just really nice to see when these gaming companies get behind stuff like this. So I wanted to shout it out and make sure you guys knew, because if you ever thought about buying the battle pass, buying any cosmetics, you were literally getting your Fortnite items and at the same time donating 100% of that money to the charity of the Ukraine relief. So honestly, it's fantastic to see. I know I usually try to get these update or new season videos out early, but I thought there was so much added to the season, so much new stuff that I really wanted to dive in and play it properly before making this video. So I hope you guys did appreciate the extra detail. I'm sorry it's a little bit later, but I know a lot of other content creators are giving you like an instant, oh my god, what's going on? This is the new stuff. I really want to kind of make my new season videos, I think, going forward, and more of an in-depth look at exactly how it's affecting the game, some tips and tricks, and kind of the information you only get after playing the game for a little while with them. I am going to be playing a lot more Fortnite coming into the season. I really hope I can get my head around this new spray meta and start to get into it. So I will be live at twitch.tv/Aussie Antics playing a bunch of Fortnite if you want to swing by, get my opinions, ask some questions. I'm going to make some cool guide videos over the next few days. Maybe some of the best new drop spots, maybe some new tips and tricks with the new items. I'm sure these building and vaulting mechanics are going to have some pretty crazy impacts on the game. So I will be getting some videos out over the next few days with more in-depth details on how the season's working. Don't worry. Alright guys, that does it for another video. I hope you enjoyed. If you did, please chuck a like on it, subscribe to the channel if you haven't, and I'll see you in the next one.